Hello everybody, this is Lara from Pure Elliott Wave with your quick update today for Bitcoin, Ethereum and XRP. Before I get into it, as always, if you're not subscribed, I recommend doing so. I analyse these three markets Monday to Friday for free on this channel, and you don't want to lose it and you don't want to miss out. And if you are subscribed, thank you very, very much for your support. Please hit the like button and make a comment because all of your engagement helps my little YouTube channel grow. I'm going to start off today with an idea from Paul Webborn. He's on Twitter. I'll put his Twitter handle in the description box below, so credit where credit's due. This is something he pointed out on Twitter and he posted a chart. He's pointing out that on the monthly time frame for Bitcoin, RSI is moving within a pretty wide channel. This is the entire price history of Bitcoin, and the first big peak here that I've drawn the trend channel from is October 2013 up here. And then we have November 2017, that really important high. And then we have March 2021. That wasn't the all-time high though. This parallel trend channel is parallel, but it's not perfectly showing where the troughs are finding support. This one here in January 2019 fell short, and this trough here in December 2022 fell a little bit short as well. So the lower edge isn't absolutely perfect, but the basic idea is really, really good, and I think this is very interesting. Deeply overbought, swings down to just below the halfway mark, does not reach oversold at the monthly time frame. Again, deeply overbought at the following all-time high, doesn't quite reach down to the trend channel, but reaches below the 50 or halfway mark and doesn't get oversold at the end of the bear market. Deeply overbought again just before the end of the bull market, and again below the halfway mark here. So following that pattern, you'd expect RSI to continue on up and price to continue on up to new all-time highs. A couple of other things I want to note about this chart. Here at the all-time high, there's bearish divergence between the March 2021 peak and the October 2021 peak. RSI made a lower high, price made a higher high, and these two peaks are relatively close together, so I would definitely consider that. A very important, should be noted, bearish divergence. When I look for bearish divergence, I'm looking for peaks relatively close together, and this is the other thing I want to point out to you on this chart. The reason why I'm not going to consider bearish divergence between peaks that have a great distance apart is exactly what this chart is showing. Here, price made all-time highs, a much higher high, but RSI made a lower high. But these peaks between price and RSI are separated by years of distance. They're so far apart, don't consider them, because it just doesn't seem to be very reliable. The further apart the peaks, the less reliable the divergence. If you had considered that divergence as particularly bearish, then in November 2018 you would not have expected that was the end of the bear market. You would have expected it to continue on down most likely. So considering that would have led you astray. Again, considering it here, in March 2021, you would have expected probably a much deeper, longer bear market, maybe to move below the November 2018 lows. That's not what happened. It went on to all-time highs, exhibited some short-term bearish divergence, and a bear market lasting a year has not broken below the low of November 2018. So don't consider divergence when it's separated by a reasonable distance. Just look for peaks that are a lot closer together like these two up to October 2021. So this chart is a beautiful illustration of that. So just because we've got bearish divergence between these peaks over many years does not mean I expect that Bitcoin has to absolutely crash and that we should see a continuation of a bear market. It does not preclude Bitcoin making new all-time highs. It's done it before here and here. It's probably going to do it again. Very short term, let's have a look and see what Bitcoin's up to today. It did manage to close just above 37,700. It closed yesterday 37,884.19, but it hasn't managed to remain above that point. It's returning very quickly back below, so it's consolidating. It's moving sideways with resistance about 37,700, maybe just a touch above that, and support about 35,000. Let's expect a breakout at some stage. If we see a downward breakout, then we're looking for a deeper pullback to relieve extreme conditions, and I am expecting that to turn up sooner rather than later now. If we see a break to the upside, I'd wait for one more day up on a way to close again above resistance before I'd have confidence in that breakout, because this close above resistance didn't remain there. If price does continue on up, then look out for next resistance at 41,100, and if that happens, then I would be looking for bearish divergence between price and RSI, and if we see that, then I would be expecting a deeper pullback to relieve extreme conditions. Yesterday's close above resistance at 37,700 did have a little push from volume compared to the previous downward sessions. Cannot make a conclusion about this current session because we're only just before 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Yesterday did have push from volume, but it wasn't as strong as these previous upward sessions. ADX is now declining, telling us there's no clear trend after the upward trend reached very extreme into danger territory. So that's what I mean by look out for a pullback to last a little bit longer, be a little bit deeper and sharper to relieve the extreme conditions. This upward trend has reached very extreme. RSI has reached deeply overbought and exhibits single bearish divergence. If we see another pivot develop on RSI, I'll then look to see if we're developing double bearish divergence. This is the point from RSI yesterday. It's overbought again, but I need to see the pivot on RSI and the pivot on price develop before I consider divergence. I'll be able to look at that for you tomorrow. Money flow also reached overbought and exhibits single bearish divergence. So considering the trend is very extreme, money flow and RSI both reached overbought, both exhibit bearish divergence. We could be seeing a deeper, more sharper pullback beginning here. If it doesn't begin here, I'd expect maybe after one more high and double bearish divergence develops. So the outlook's pretty much the same as yesterday, really. For Ethereum, real quick, on the weekly chart, I want to draw your attention to this trend line. Draw it from this low, week beginning 12th of June 2022, to this low, week beginning 20th of November 2022. This is on a semi-log scale. Extend that line on out. If we see a deeper pullback here, look out for support at that trend line. This trend line on the weekly chart, here it is on the daily chart. And this shows that when I say to expect support from that trend line, don't expect it to be perfect. We could see some overshoots, we could see some candlesticks below it. It'll be a roundabout. Pulling a parallel copy down to sit on this low, the end of minor 2, which is the low for the 12th of October. That's quite an important low. We might find final support at that trend line if this current pullback continues lower and is deeper. And I expect it's most likely to continue lower. It doesn't have to, but that's what I'm expecting is most likely at this point. Let's get some labels in here on my Minute Wave C. It's probably extending. It needs to be a 5-wave motive structure. It's probably got subminuet 1 and 2 complete. Now looking for a third wave down at subminuet degree, then a little bounce for 4, which may not move into wave 1 price territory, and finally a final 5th wave down. On the daily chart for Ethereum, the situation again pretty much the same as yesterday. I think that I need to get rid of this support and resistance about 2020. I think that we need to just put it up here and look for next support about 1,880. Ethereum also essentially moving sideways or a little bit lower. I'm expecting it's most likely we're going to see a continuation of that pullback to relieve extreme conditions. Yesterday's upward session for Ethereum did not have push from volume, so there's weakness in that upward movement that supports the view, a little bit of support, that we may be getting a deeper pullback. RSI reached very deeply overbought. It's back in neutral territory, so far this little pullback is starting to relieve extreme conditions. ADX told us that the upward trend was very extreme, in danger territory. It's now declining, so this little consolidation is starting to relieve extreme conditions, but there's a way to go yet before the black ADX line gets back below both DX lines and back below 45 and out of that danger territory. For both Ethereum and XRP on the weekly chart, I'm drawing your attention to this trend line. For XRP, it's drawn from the low, week beginning 13th of November 2022, to the low of week beginning 13th of August 2023. It's not perfect. Here it is on the daily chart, and these little overshoots. So creating a parallel copy and pulling it lower. If this pullback is very deep, this may be where it finds final support. My target for minor 2 is for minute C to reach 1.618, the length of A at 0.5824. If price falls through that, the attention turns to the log function of the 0.618 Fibonacci ratio at 0.5388, and below that, this little trend line I've just pulled down for you. Situation for XRP is pretty much much the same as yesterday. It's just moving sideways. It had a pretty weak inside session that closed green yesterday, and so far price is moving below the low of yesterday, and price is currently below the open of yesterday as well. And yesterday's upward session, well, inside session, also had really weak volume, so it's just moving sideways, having a wee pause. ADX for XRP reached at the beginning of danger territory, so we would consider it's quite likely to expect a pullback to last a bit longer and be a bit deeper to relieve extreme conditions. ADX is now declining, there's no clear trend. RSI reached very deeply overbought, it's back in neutral territory, so this little pullback is starting to relieve extreme conditions. Likewise with money flow. For XRP, on balance volume is starting to trace out a little range. Now I'll be pretty flexible at how I have my resistance and support lines. The resistance line's got a bit of a slope, so if we can see a higher pivot develop, then I'd be happy to redraw it. The shallower the slope of the line, the greater the technical significance. The support line has a shallow slope, so that's really good, but it's only got the minimum required 2 pivots or 2 anchor points you need to draw a line. So I'll keep an eye on this, may adjust support and resistance. I'll wait for a nice range on balance volume, and then once we have it, I'll be looking for a breakout to give us a signal. That's my favorite way to use on balance volume. When it has a really good range and then it has a breakout, it gives a really good signal. That's it from me today with your quick update for these three, and I hope everyone's having a lovely day.